CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I found a classified 1962 NASA recording on the dark web. Something was already on the moon. Hey Reddit. So, I don't really know how to start this. I've never posted on r/NOSLEEP before, and honestly, I'm not even sure if this is the right place. But something happened, and I can't keep it to myself anymore. If something happens to me, if I just stop posting, you'll know why. This all started about 3 weeks ago. I'm a 22-year-old guy, just trying to figure out my life like everyone else. I dropped out of college last year. Long story, not important right now, and moved back in with my parents in New Jersey. To kill time, I picked up freelance video editing gigs, mostly for random YouTubers who want to pay me an exposure and, if I'm lucky, a Starbucks gift card. Anyway, I spend a lot of time online. Discord, Reddit, Twitch, all that stuff. I'm not a hacker or anything, but I know my way around the darker corners of the internet. And one night, I ended up in a private Discord server that was just different. The invite came from a guy I met through a comment thread on a conspiracy subreddit. He called himself Venus Lens. He said, if you're into the real stuff, join this. You won't find this on YouTube or TikTok. That should have been my first red flag. But being the curious idiot I am, I clicked the link. The server, the observatory. When I joined, the server had only 9 members. The channels had weird names like TAPEARCHIVE, BLACKSITEDROP, and LUNANINETENSIXTWO. Everyone was dead silent. No messages, no chatter, just files. I scrolled through Tape Archive, and there were dozens of audio files with vague titles like Apollo HK 24 intraw.aif, buzzraw 0.rmbb, and silence on luna.mkv. Some of them were over an hour long, but one stood out to me. It was a simple .wav file named Moon Entry 1962 Cassette 3.wave. I don't know what compelled me to click on it. It was 2:37 a.m. and I was high-key terrified, but I downloaded it anyway and opened it in Audacity, thinking maybe I could clean it up and figure out what it was. The audio right away, it sounded like your typical 1960s NASA transmission. Static, distorted voices, lots of code words and flight jargon. But then, around the 4-minute mark, things got weird. The audio shifts. One of the voices, he sounds young, maybe 30s, definitely American, starts breathing heavily. He whispers, "Mission Control, we are not alone. Repeat, we are not." Loud static. Then there's this sound. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like a mix of metal being scraped on bone and a child laughing underwater. I know that doesn't make sense, but it's the only way I can explain it. Then, the man screams, like full-on, blood-curdling horror movie scream. Not the kind of scream you can fake. It was primal, real. Then the transmission cuts out. I sat there, headphones on, frozen. My skin was covered in goosebumps. I felt cold, like someone had opened a freezer behind me. Something about the scream felt wrong. Not just terrifying, but out of place, like it didn't belong in that time. I wanted to message someone in the Discord, ask what the hell that file was, but when I went back, the entire server was gone. Not deleted, gone. As if I'd never joined. The invite link didn't even work anymore. I checked my history, my Discord cache. Nothing. No trace of it. The rabbit hole. Now, I'm not the type to just let stuff go. I needed answers. So I started researching old NASA missions from 1962. Here's the creepy part. There wasn't supposed to be anything lunar related happening that year. At least not officially. Apollo 11 didn't even happen until 69. But then I stumbled across a Reddit thread in r/space from 6 years ago. It only had 4 comments, and the OP had deleted their account. But the title was, "Anyone ever heard of Project Silencer?" Supposedly, NASA sent a black crew to the moon in 1962. The comments were just as cryptic. My uncle worked for NASA in the 80s. He mentioned something about a mission before Armstrong, said they never came back. The recording still exists, but they buried it deep. If you're reading this, stop. I bookmarked the thread and went back to the audio. Something felt off about the file size. It was way too big for a 6-minute .wav. I extracted the raw data and found a second track hidden in the file. One with no sound, just strange metadata. In the metadata was a line that said, "Return protocol failed. The observer remains." That's when I knew this wasn't some ARG or Reddit hoax. This wasn't a liminal space creepypasta or a Blair Witch style audio gag. This was real. And the worst part? Ever since I played that audio, weird stuff has been happening. My webcam light started turning on by itself. My Amazon Alexa started playing "Fly Me to the Moon" at exactly 3:33 a.m. 2 nights in a row, when no one was even home. And last night, I got a package. No return address, no branding, just a small box with an old NASA patch inside, and a single cassette tape, the same one from the file name. Cassette 3. I haven't played it yet. I'm not sure I want to, but I will, and I'll update you all in part 2. If I go missing before then, don't trust the moon. I didn't sleep the night the package came. I just sat there in my room, staring at the tape, like it was a loaded gun. My cat, Momo, wouldn't stop hissing at it. She crouched in the corner, eyes wide, tail fluffed, like she'd seen a ghost crawling on the ceiling. I've had her for 5 years. She's never acted like that. She eventually bolted out of my room and refused to come back in. The tape smelled like old copper and mold, the kind of scent that clings to forgotten basements and hospital wings that should have been shut down decades ago. It had Cassette 3 handwritten in faded red ink. The label was peeling off like skin, and when I tilted it under my desk lamp, I swear to God, I saw something move inside the casing. Just a flicker, like a shadow twitched behind the tape reel. I waited until 3:33 a.m. to play it. I don't know why. I didn't plan that. But something about the hour felt necessary. The tape. I don't own a tape player, obviously. I had to borrow one from this sketchy pawn shop downtown that was literally next to a Domino's and an abandoned vape lounge. The guy behind the counter handed it to me without a word. His hands were shaking. Back home, I sat on the floor with my headphones in, hit play. At first, silence. Then breathing. Slow, shallow, struggling breathing, like someone was half dead and trying to whisper into a microphone through a mouth full of blood. It lasted maybe 30 seconds. Then, a voice, clearer than the wave file. This time, no static. "This is Lieutenant Harold D. Mercer. Luna, Mission 3. I don't know how much time I have. Something is here. Something is already here." There's a sound behind his voice. Not static, not mechanical. It was chewing, like something wet tearing through bone and cartilage. "They lied to us, said we were the first, said we were going to make history. But the crater, it was already there. The symbols weren't ours. The bodies weren't human." His voice cracked. He started crying. "They had no mouths, just skin, like it had grown over. Their eyes were gone, sockets clean, burned out from the inside. Something was still alive, under their suits, moving, twitching like a puppet with no strings." He started muttering numbers, long strings of them. Some were coordinates. I checked them later. They lead to the Giordano Bruno crater, a place on the far side of the moon NASA claims they've never been to. It's always facing away from Earth. The next part was, I don't even know how to explain it. The audio changed. It stopped sounding like a recording. It started sounding like I was there. The chewing got louder, wet tearing. A woman screamed, long and sharp, but her voice was modulated, like it was being filtered through water. And beneath it all, something whispered in a language I can't even describe. It wasn't words. It was like pressure, like my skull was being squeezed by syllables that didn't belong in this dimension. Then Mercer said something that's been living in my head rent-free since that night. It wears their suits. It talks through their radios. It's not what we thought. It isn't alien. It's older, buried here, feeding on memory. He starts screaming again, this time begging. He says they made a deal, that NASA made a deal in 1960, that this was never about exploration. They gave it people, test missions. The Challenger wasn't an accident. It's part of the payment cycle. Every 27 years. I saw the file. I saw the file. Then everything goes quiet. You hear him breathing for a while. Then Mercer whispers very softly, "It knows you're listening." I tore the headphones off. My ears were ringing. My nose was bleeding. No joke. I checked the waveform later. That last part, the whisper, it was on a separate audio channel that shouldn't have existed. My editor tools showed no secondary track, but it was there. And there's more. Something's following me. The morning after I played the tape, my mom found a dead rabbit on our doorstep. Its fur had been peeled off like an orange. Its eyes were missing. Just 2 black holes, surgical clean. I live in the suburbs. Nothing like that ever happens here. That same day, my phone started glitching. My Instagram feed refreshed on its own and showed a picture of the moon. Just the moon, full and blue and wrong. It was posted by an account I didn't follow. Name, @Observer 1962. The caption was just, Phase 2, awareness. Then the account vanished, like it never existed. I tried telling my friend Luke about it. He's a total space nerd. He laughed it off until I showed him the audio file. The moment he heard the chewing sound, he turned white. He told me he had to leave. He called me that night, freaking out, said something followed him home. He sent me a voice message at 2:12 a.m. It's standing in my driveway. Dude, it's wearing an astronaut suit, but the visor is melting. I think it's smiling under it. It knows I listened. It knows. The message cut out. I haven't heard from him since. His mom says he went missing. Cops found his phone in a puddle of blood near his car. No sign of struggle, no prints, just a NASA patch embedded in the windshield from the inside. The final image. I went back to the audio again, slowed it down, boosted the background frequencies. At the very end, there's a short 1.2 second burst of data that's not audio at all. It's a hexadecimal string. I ran it through a converter and it turned out to be a JPG file. Yeah, a picture. I opened it. It was an image of the moon's surface, but distorted, like it had been run through an old analog camera underwater. In the foreground, there was a figure, not a person, something wearing a person. It was tall, too tall, NASA suit, but twisted. The arms were too long, like they'd been pulled like taffy. The faceplate was cracked, and inside, something looked back at me. Skinless, glossy, like meat wrapped around bone and lit by stars. It had no eyes, just pits, but it stared straight at me through the screen. Even now, I can't stop seeing it. I closed the file, burned the tape, threw the player in the river. Didn't matter. Last night, I got another package. This time, it wasn't a tape. It was a tooth, wrapped in tinfoil, still wet. On the foil was scribbled, "Cassette 2 is waiting." I didn't want to open the foil. It was still warm when I picked it up, not like it had been in a person's pocket. Warm like breathing, like the package had lungs. There was condensation on the inside of the wrapping. It smelled like spoiled milk and iron and something else I can only describe as forgotten hospital. The tooth was human, rotting, but fresh, nerve exposed. It twitched when I touched it. I puked twice before I realized there was something else wrapped with it. A microcassette, unlabeled, smaller than the first one. It looked newer, not NASA issue, not old tech, matte black with a plastic finish that seemed to absorb the light in my room, not reflect it, absorb it, like it didn't want to be seen. The kind of black that's unnatural. I thought about burning it like the last one, but I couldn't move. I was shaking too hard. The second I touched the cassette, I heard something whisper under my bed. 3 syllables. 1 word. Observer. The playback. I don't own a microcassette player. I had to get one from Facebook Marketplace. Drove an hour out into rural Jersey, middle of nowhere. The guy who sold it to me said he worked at a weather station in the 90s and found it in a bunker full of scrubbed signals from military satellites. When I asked why he was selling it, he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Whatever you're trying to listen to, don't." When I got home, I loaded the cassette at 12:01 a.m. No headphones this time. I kept my door open. I didn't want to be alone, even if my parents were asleep. At first, nothing. Just a high-pitched hiss, but not static. It sounded like someone shivering through clenched teeth. Underneath that, almost subliminal, there was this low mechanical hum, like a machine breathing. Then, a voice, but not Mercer's, not human. It sounded like a man and a woman talking at the same time, overlapping, like a phone call being hijacked by something pretending to be familiar. It spoke in English, but wrong. The inflection was twisted, upside down. There was no rhythm to the words, no emotional weight. They opened the pit. 1962. The moon bled for 3 days. It still bleeds. I couldn't breathe. The voice was inside my walls, not just in the machine. Observer entered, not returned. Observer duplicated. Observer now many. The tape crackled. For a moment I thought it ended, but then the next part played. Something so vivid, I can't sleep without hearing it. On loop. Human vessels. Ideal. bones compatible, flesh pliable, soul unripe. Then screaming, dozens of voices, screaming like they were melting, all overlapping, like the tape had been layered with hundreds of death rattles. There was gnashing, and underneath that, laughter, not happy, mocking, the sound of something ancient, rehearsed, like it had been watching us for millennia and finally decided to join the play. Then came the part that made me fall out of my chair. It was a recording of me. From the night I opened the first package, you can hear me breathing, typing, you can hear my cat hissing, and then, clear as day, a voice I've never heard before, whispering, the observer listens, the observer watches, the observer becomes. And then something whispered my full name, my legal name, first, middle, and last, which I never say online, ever. The disappearance. The night I played cassette 2, I started bleeding from my ears. Not a lot, just a trickle, enough to stain the collar of my hoodie and make my teeth feel loose. I passed out in the bathroom around 3 a.m. When I woke up, the walls were covered in writing, but not written. It was like the drywall had been peeled to form symbols, carved inward. My fingernails were caked in white dust, and there, written in deep red, smeared across my mirror, the observer is me. I screamed. My parents ran in. They didn't see anything, not the symbols, not the words, nothing. Just me, standing there, shaking, blood on my neck and fingers. They took me to the ER. I didn't say much. The doctor said I was dehydrated, possibly sleepwalking. They found no damage to my ears. But while I was lying in the hospital bed, I saw the news on the wall-mounted TV. NASA engineer found dead inside launch simulator in Houston facility. The article said he was working alone on testing archived telemetry systems. They found him with his skull caved inward, no signs of force trauma, no bruising, no evidence of collapse. It looked like his head had imploded. The last thing he searched on his NASA terminal. Cassette 2 protocol. Observer duplication. I almost passed out again. The third mark. 3 nights later, I woke up with a third ear. Not a joke, not metaphorical. A small malformed vestigial ear was growing just under my left jawline. Pink, raw, pulsing. It whispers sometimes. I can't understand what it says, but it hums when the moon is full. My phone's front camera refuses to turn off. My laptop randomly opens WordPad and types this over and over again. It watches you watching. My emails are all scrambled, replaced with low-res .web images of the moon. But not our moon. This one is darker, cracked, covered in red veins. At its center is a shape, humanoid, upside down, the stranger. 2 days ago, I left the house for the first time since the hospital. I went to a nearby McDonald's, hoping to feel normal again. I sat by the window, sipping lukewarm Sprite, trying to forget everything. That's when he walked in, wearing a clean white NASA flight suit, no patches, no name tag. He was tall, way too tall, like someone stretched a person upward until their spine was ready to snap. His movements were stiff, jittery, like a stop-motion puppet walking frame by frame. He sat in the booth across from me, never said a word. He took a napkin, dipped his finger in nothing, just the air, and began drawing something. I didn't recognize the symbol, but when I looked at it, I started bleeding from my nose again. He slid the napkin over to me, smiled. His teeth were wrong. There were too many. They looked like piano keys shoved into a wet jaw. Then he whispered. Cassette 1 was a warning. Cassette 2 was a copy. Cassette 3 was the door. I blinked, and he was gone. Just vanished. Napkin still in front of me. Still bleeding. I brought it home. Put it in a drawer. It hums now, especially when I'm not looking at it. What I found in my closet. Last night, I heard something scratching from inside my closet. At first, I thought it was mice, but then something knocked. 3 times. Rhythmic, like Morse code. I opened the door slowly, phone flashlight shaking. Inside, there was another me, standing in the dark, wearing my clothes, my face, but its mouth was stitched shut. Its chest was cut open. Inside, where the heart should have been, there was a cassette reel spinning by itself. No machine, no power, just spinning. It looked up at me and smiled with eyes that weren't mine. In one hand, it held a cassette labeled 4. In the other, it pointed to the sky and whispered through sealed lips, "Observer ascending. Cassette 4 is not from this world. You're not ready for it, but it's already inside you. There are no clocks in my house anymore. They've all stopped at 4:44 a.m. Microwaves, phones, smartwatches, even digital displays embedded in devices I didn't know had time systems. All frozen. Nothing would tick past it. Time is suspended. Or maybe time is watching. I don't sleep anymore. Not really. The dream I keep having, it isn't mine. I'm floating, but not in space. I'm suspended in a fluid, thick and lukewarm, like expired blood. I can't move my limbs. They're folded the wrong way, like someone tried to stuff me into a space too small. I can feel tubes in my throat. My skin itches from the inside. Something whispers through a speaker submerged in the liquid with me. Not words, just shapes. I can see the sound, like tendrils in the dark. And when I open my eyes, I see the moon, but not the one we know. It has veins. It breathes. And it watches back. Cassette 4, the thing in the closet, the other me. It didn't leave when I shut the door. It didn't vanish. It just stood there, grinning with its mouth sewn shut, twitching like a marionette strung by broken nerves. And then, at 4:44 a.m. exactly, it stepped forward, placed the cassette in my hands, and crawled backward into the ceiling. Not climbed, crawled, like a spider, like something that didn't need gravity anymore. I didn't scream. I didn't even blink. I think some part of me died already, like my fear gland shut off to save power. The cassette was slick, wet, as if it had been soaking in something. When I brought it close to my ear, I didn't hear static. I heard breathing. Mine. I knew this one wouldn't play in a standard player. It wasn't meant for one. The tape was translucent, organic, almost. Inside, instead of reels, it had muscle fibers, twitching slightly. I hooked it up to an old rig used for decoding signal frequencies in aviation towers, because at this point, I've stopped pretending this is about tapes. This is about transmission. And what I heard, it wasn't a message. It was a feed. Live. What cassette 4 shows you. It starts with darkness. Then, slowly, you begin to see, not with eyes, but through sensation. The feed beams directly into you. I started shaking violently. My fingers bent backwards without snapping. My tongue split in two like a snake's. Blood poured from my belly button. The room went cold and humid. And then the images started. Not video, not film. Memories, but not mine. Memory 1. First contact. A man stands on the moon, not in a suit, not protected. He's naked, skin blackened like he was cooked from the inside. He's not breathing, but he's standing. Behind him, a crater opens, like a mouth. Something climbs out, not crawls, climbs, like it's ascending from a hole deeper than the moon itself. It looks like an astronaut at first, but then the helmet opens, not the visor. The whole helmet peels backward like the petals of a flower. Inside is a child's face, mouth agape, no eyes, just smooth bone. It opens its mouth wider than possible and sings, but the sound drains you. I felt it. My body temperature dropped to 89 degrees Fahrenheit. My nose caved slightly. I couldn't blink. The man on the moon shatters, like glass. Memory 2. The harvest. I saw a room, sterile, metallic. Walls were curved like the inside of a ribcage. A woman was strapped to a steel gurney, wires in her eyes, her ears, her toes. She's pregnant. Or they made her that way. Machines pump something into her. Not fluids, data. Black symbols running through transparent veins. Her belly pulses. Something inside is trying to scream through her skin. Then one of the doctors leans into view. Its face is a screen. The screen shows my reflection, but I'm crying blood and mouthing, "It's your turn." The woman gives birth to a cassette, still twitching, wrapped in an umbilical cord made of black tape. It records her scream as she dies. Memory 3. The Earth signal. I saw Earth, floating, and above it, thousands, millions of those things. Suits without people. Suits that moved like people who forgot how bones work. Spiraling slowly, like a ritual, all facing down at Earth. Each one broadcast a different version of me. Laughing, screaming, begging. One just sat in silence, jaw distended, eyes gone, with the words, "Observer Prime," carved into its chest. Then Earth, cracked. Not exploded, cracked. A line opened from pole to pole, and from it spilled more tapes. Endless cassettes raining into space. One hit the camera. Feed cut. What's happening to me? Since I played cassette 4, my house has started to rot. Not fall apart. Rot. Like it's alive and decaying. Wood is soft. Paint flakes off like dead skin. My parents haven't left their rooms in days. I knock. I hear breathing. Not theirs. My cat's tail split down the middle. It meows in reversed audio now. I can't eat food anymore. It just turns to maggots in my mouth. But I'm not starving. I'm changing. My reflection no longer matches me. It moves slower, smiles when I don't. The third ear on my neck. Its grown teeth. Sometimes I hear it chatter when the moon is out. And 2 nights ago, I woke up with recording reels pushing out from under my fingernails. I pulled one out. It whispered, "Observer complete. Final playback awaits. Final transmission." I set up a camera, tried to document what I could. When I played the footage back, the video showed something else. I'm not in the room. There's no furniture, just dozens of me, all facing the wall, muttering in sync. They turn, they smile, and they point upward. Then the video cuts to a McDonald's, the one from part 3. Inside, a family sits at a booth. Behind them, a figure in a NASA suit stands in the play area. Children run through him like he's not even there. Then the screen glitches and shows one frame, one single frame, of the moon, from up close. You can see faces in the craters. They're watching. The letter. I got a letter yesterday. Actual envelope. Wax sealed with the NASA logo. But wrong. The letters are reversed. The eagle is eating its own wings. Inside, you are not the first. You will not be the last. The 5th cassette is not sound. It is light. Play it with your eyes open. Cassette 5 is light. Cassette 5 can't be heard. It has to be seen. And it's already everywhere. Cassette 5 is not a tape. It's light. It's reflection. It's recognition. It can't be heard. It must be seen. And I saw it. Not in a player. not through a screen. I saw it in my own eyes. It's the last thing you see before something else wears your skin like a coat. What happened that night? I'd locked every door in the house, taped mirrors, covered windows in foil. I hadn't eaten in days. My body no longer felt like mine. My spine would twitch. My joints would pulse, like something was pressing outward, stretching the skin to test its limits. I tried to record myself sleeping. The footage came back upside down, literally upside down. Every video, every picture, even the time on my phone. 4:44 a.m. became Jaruru. Reality had started to peel like wallpaper. The seams were visible now. Corners of my vision showed things that shouldn't exist. People walking backward in the streets, clouds moving in reverse, birds flying in figure eights until they collapsed midair, like the sky had rejected their existence. And then the moon blinked. Cassette 5 begins. It didn't come in a package, no envelope, no cryptic message. It arrived inside me. It began with a sharp, white-hot flash that filled my bedroom at exactly 4:44 a.m. No source, no bulb, just light. Silent, aggressive, like someone dragged a piece of the sun into my room for a split second. When it vanished, every object cast shadows in the wrong direction, and on the wall, written in something wet and brown, was one sentence: "Watch yourself watching." Then I blinked, and I was no longer alone. The others, they stood shoulder to shoulder across my room, lining the walls like mannequins half draped in skin, all wearing NASA suits made of organic materials, stitched veins, pressed muscle fiber, knee pads of yellowed bone. Their helmets pulsed slightly, like they were breathing. No visors, just thin membranes stretched across their faces like a film of mucus. Inside each one was me. Not exactly me, but how I look in dreams. Warped, exaggerated, my nose slightly too long, my smile too perfect. One had no eyelids and wept black fluid that steamed as it hit the carpet. Another had a mouth that never closed, teeth spinning slowly inside like film reels. One by one, they lifted their gloved hands and pointed behind me. I turned around. My TV, which hadn't worked in weeks, turned on. Black screen. No sound. Just a video of my room, as it was right now. Me. The others. The blinking light. Except in the video, something else stood in the center of the room. It didn't have a face, just a circle of glass embedded where a head should have been. And inside that glass, a spinning reel of film, playing backward. It stepped toward the camera. Then everything went white, the broadcast. I woke up inside the feed. I don't know how to explain it, other than my vision had become film. There were frame lines over my eyes. When I blinked, I could feel reels shifting inside my skull, and the world moved at 24 frames per second, lagging behind reality by half a heartbeat. Every shadow was recording me. Every reflection showed not what I was doing, but what I was about to do. And that's when cassette 5 fully activated. Light poured in through the windows. Not sunlight, playback light, the kind you see in old projection rooms when the film melts and screams. The walls began to play scenes like movie screens, flickering, silent, horrifying. A man in a McDonald's bathroom, clawing his own face off as his reflection laughs. A child being pulled into the sky by a string of cassette tape wrapped around his spine. A hospital room filled with doctors wearing astronaut suits, delivering a baby that has no face, only a speaker where its mouth should be. The first thing it does is scream, in reverse, and then I saw me, the observer. On the ceiling above my bed was a hole, not punched, not natural. It had grown, a perfect black circle dripping shadows onto the bedspread, whispering names I've never heard but felt familiar. And from it, something began to descend. Its body was made of film strips, old, degraded, flammable reels of forgotten history, bones made of antennae, a ribcage built from bent satellites. Its arms were long spools of VHS tape dragging across the floor, picking up blood and teeth and discarded names. Its head, a camera, a lens, a huge, cracked lens, bleeding light like pus. It looked at me, and for the first time, I saw what it sees. I saw all of you. Reading this, now it sees you. What it showed me. The moon is not a satellite. It's a receiver, a playback device. It does not orbit us by gravity. It is anchored to us by memory. It feeds on attention, on observation. The more you look, the stronger it gets. NASA did not go there to explore. They went to surrender. The 1962 mission was a ritual, not science, a sacrifice of minds. Mercer didn't die on the moon. He became the first real. And since then, every 27 years, another cassette must be played. Another observer must be recorded. I am cassette 5. The ending, if you can call it that. I no longer live in time. I exist between frames. My hands are projectors. My thoughts spool like old film reels. When I cry, it's celluloid that pours from my eyes. The people I see on the street, not people. Drones for playback, vessels for duplication. Every reflective surface is a lens, and every lens is a mouth waiting to replay your scream, your phone, your webcam, that paused video you left open. They're listening, they're recording. Every time you blink, you risk starting your own tape. Final warning, cassette 5 is the last one, but not because it ends, because it loops. If you read this far, you've seen enough. The broadcast is inside you now. The moon knows your eyes. You'll start seeing static in mirrors. You'll hear your own voice say things you don't remember saying. When you dream, you'll feel the light. When you wake, you'll hear the reel turning. And when the time comes, 4:44 a.m., you'll see the white flash, and you'll know it's your turn to become tape. Or rewind? I paid $3,000 in Bitcoin for a dark web livestream. It showed an alien dying in real time. Yo, what's up? So, this is gonna sound fake as hell, but I swear on everything I love, it's real. Like, painfully real. I'm still processing half the stuff that happened, and I don't think I'll ever be the same after what I saw. This ain't one of those haha spooky ghost in the basement stories either. This is about something deep, something wrong, and something that probably shouldn't even exist. I've never told anyone about this. I honestly didn't plan to. But lately, weird stuff's been happening again. Like, my phone glitches out when I talk about it, and a van has been parked across from my apartment every night since last week. I'm just hoping that maybe if I put this out there, someone else has seen what I saw, or at least understands. Alright, let me take it back to the beginning. It started about a year ago, back in 2024. I was in one of those late night YouTube rabbit holes. You know the type. It started with some dumb meme comp, then spiraled into those animated horror stories, like the ones from Here's My Story or Mr. Nightmare vibes. You ever watch those at like 2 a.m. with your AirPods in under the blanket and get that little chill down your spine? Yeah, that kind of night. One video, in particular, caught my attention. It was titled, "This live stream was never meant for humans." The animation was weird, jerky, like it was glitching. The story was about some dude who paid for a dark web stream and ended up seeing some illegal stuff go down. Typical, right? But in the description, there was a link. Not to the dark web, don't worry, I'm not that dumb. But it was a Reddit thread, r/deepweebrecon. If you know, you know. I clicked. The post was simple, just a screenshot of a site I'd never seen before. Looked like an old Windows 98 layout. Plain black background, neon green text, kinda like those old hacker movies. The title of the site was just, "The Show." Someone in the comments wrote, "Don't go past room 3 unless you've got 3K in BTC and a death wish." I was like, okay, edgy internet lore, cool. But my curiosity? Yeah, that thing betrayed me hard. I asked around in some Discord servers I'm in, some dark web enthusiasts, crypto pros, digital urban explorers. One guy, username @parsexins, hit me back. He sent me a .onion link and said, "Only open this in Tails OS. Trust me." I didn't even know what the hell Tails OS was, but I learned quick. It's like an amnesiac operating system you can run off a USB. No trace. I figured if I was going to peek into the deep web, I might as well do it right. Felt like a spy or something. So yeah, after some prep, I booted up Tails, launched Tor, and pasted the link. The site loaded slow. Real slow. Like dial-up slow. At first, it was just a black screen with a blinking cursor. Then text appeared, line by line. "Welcome to the show. Do not watch if you are not ready." I clicked enter. There were rooms, like tabs. Room 1 was live, and the thumbnail was just a red door. I clicked it. It opened to a grainy video feed, like old school VHS vibes, static lines and everything. The camera was in what looked like a basement, concrete floor, flickering bulb, metal door in the back. A dude in a gas mask just stood there, not moving, for 10 straight minutes. Then he slowly walked up to the camera and whispered, "Room 2 opens when you're ready." And then the feed cut. I went back to the main page. Room 2 was unlocked now. Okay, weird gimmick, I thought. But I was hooked. Like, uncomfortably hooked. It felt like a game, but also like something sacred. Like I was trespassing on something way older than the internet. Room 2's video started playing without me even clicking. This time, the room was dark. A shape was lying on a table, covered in a sheet. Then the lights turned on. It wasn't human. I don't care what anyone says. This thing, it looked like every depiction of an alien you've ever seen. Grayish skin, elongated limbs, big head, big black eyes. Except the eyes were deflated, like balloons popped inward, and its chest was open, dissected, but it was twitching. Someone off-screen said, "We begin the last sequence at 0400 hours. I checked the time. It was 3:47 a.m. And under the video, in tiny text, it said, "Room 3 opens for verified payment, 0.075 Bitcoin. That's about $3,000. At this point, my brain was screaming, no, but my curiosity, that evil little goblin, was screaming, yes. I stared at the screen for like 20 minutes, heart pounding. I even opened Reddit again, trying to find someone else who had done this. But all the posts on r/deepwebrecon were gone, deleted. Just one pinned post remained. If you watched Room 2, they already know who you are. Deadass. I got chills typing that just now. But here's the dumb part. I had cryptocurrency. I'd been investing since 2021. I had like $10,000 in Bitcoin chilling. So, yeah, I sent the payment. Room 3 unlocked. And what I saw next changed everything I thought I knew about this world. It gets way worse from here, and not in the way you think. This wasn't just some sci-fi hoax. Something not human, was begging to die, and I might have helped it. Edit. For those DMing me, no, I'm not uploading screenshots. I don't want to end up on a missing person poster. If I go radio silent, you know why. I don't remember blinking when room 3 loaded. The screen just opened. No loading bar, no buffering, just instant, like it was waiting for me. The video quality was way better than the first 2 streams. Crystal clear, 4K, maybe even higher. The lighting was sterile, blinding white. The camera was static, but the image was too sharp to be real. It felt like my screen wasn't even a screen anymore, like I was staring through a window. There was a room, white walls, floor to ceiling, but they weren't walls exactly. They pulsed, slowly, like a lung breathing, and they weren't solid, more like meat wrapped in plastic. Every few seconds, something shifted underneath, like a twitch, like veins just beneath the surface. In the center of the room was a metal operating table, long and thin like a mortuary slab, and strapped to it was it, the thing from room 2, except now it was wide awake and screaming, not out loud, not in any way that I could describe with sound. The speakers on my laptop were completely silent, but I felt the screaming. It was like someone injected a live wire into my teeth and spine. My eyes watered instantly. My chest clenched. My gums bled a little. I tasted iron. The thing was fighting the restraints. Wrists too thin to break them, but it kept writhing. I saw its ribs shift under the skin. Its jaw didn't move, but I swear to God it was begging. And then they walked in. 3 figures, no names, no faces, covered head to toe in red hazmat suits, but the material wasn't like plastic. It looked organic, almost wet. The suits didn't reflect light right, and their masks, there were no visors, no breathing tubes, just one perfect black circle in the center of each face, like a camera lens or an eye. Each one was carrying something different. One had a metal syringe the size of a crowbar. The second was pushing a cart filled with what looked like surgical tools, only they weren't from this world. Some of them had multiple prongs that spun in opposite directions. One looked like a pair of forceps that kept biting open and shut, like a robotic jaw with no purpose. The third figure held something under a black cloth. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The thing on the table suddenly went limp, not sedated, resigned, like it knew what was about to happen. The third figure placed the black cloth bundle on a nearby tray, unwrapped it slowly. It was a mirror, but it didn't reflect the room. It showed something else. At first, I thought it was a feed from a different camera, some dark, enormous cavern, but as I watched, shapes began to form in it. Teeth, thousands of them, moving in a spiral. A maw that didn't belong to anything human. There were no eyes, no face, just hunger. And then it focused on me. My laptop glitched, violently. The screen flickered, and for a split second, I saw something I can't explain. My room, but wrong. It was like a copy, rebuilt by someone who'd only heard vague descriptions of what human homes look like. Posters slightly crooked. My desk melted at the edges. My reflection in the dark window, staring at me with someone else's eyes. Then the stream returned. They'd started the procedure. The syringe was inserted. not into the thing's veins, but directly into its eye socket. No anesthetic, no delay. A thick silver fluid was injected. It foamed instantly, spilling from its mouth, ears, and the wound in its chest. The alien started convulsing, not just twitching. It arced off the table. Its spine bent back so hard it snapped. I heard it crack like dry wood. One of the figures held it down. Another inserted a spinning prong into the creature's chest cavity. The tool made a clicking sound, like a gear being cranked over and over, and the ribs began to unfold. Not break, unfold, like they were designed to open. What was inside wasn't organs. It wasn't anything I've ever seen in science or anatomy. It was a clock, ticking, but every tick sounded like a scream. Hundreds of overlapping voices in reverse, and as the prongs peeled the ribs further back, the ticking sped up. One of the hazmat figures reached in, with bare hands, no gloves, and it grabbed the clock, yanked it out. The alien stopped moving. The ticking kept going. The camera zoomed in on its face. Its eyes were open, but they turned completely white. Its jaw slowly opened, and something slithered out. Not a tongue, a hand. Human, small, pale, child-sized. It reached outward like it was trying to grab something. It twitched for a while, then stopped. That's when the chat opened. I hadn't even noticed there was one. It popped up on the right side of the screen, an old-school IRC style box. Just usernames and text. No avatars. Dozens of people watching. Some usernames in Russian, some in Japanese, some in just random symbols I couldn't even type on my keyboard. Messages started flooding in. Stage complete. We have the time code. Ready for download. O is watching. Remove the viewer. That's when my webcam light turned on. I panicked. I slammed my laptop shut and yanked the charger out, threw it across the room. My heart was in my throat. I grabbed my phone to try and Google anything that could explain what I saw. My phone was off. Not dead. Off. Like someone held the power button and slid it to shut down. I couldn't turn it back on for 10 minutes. When it finally booted, all my apps were logged out. Google, Instagram, TikTok, even DoorDash. But here's the kicker. I checked my photos, and there was a new folder. Recovered from Drive. Inside, there were 9 screenshots of the stream I watched. One of them was my face, reflected in the mirror that didn't show the room. And in the reflection, someone was standing behind me, wearing a red hazmat suit. I didn't sleep for 48 hours after that. I threw away my laptop, burned the USB I used for Tails OS, moved out of my apartment a week later, but it didn't end, not even close. That was only the beginning, because a few weeks later, someone mailed me something. No return address, no postage, just left inside my locked mailbox. It was a vintage pocket watch, still ticking, with an inscription inside. Time isn't a measure, it's a prison. Don't say I didn't warn you. You think aliens are the scariest part? They're not. They're just trapped like us. Something else is pulling the strings. And it's not from this world. Not even this universe. If I disappear, don't look for me. Whatever's behind that mirror already knows your name too. It started breathing the night I moved. Not the alien, not the thing in the stream. Something else. Something worse. After the hazmat suit nightmare and the ticking watch showed up in my mailbox, I rented a tiny apartment above a failing nail salon in Chinatown, NYC. I didn't tell friends. No forwarding address. I paid in cash, burned my clothes from that night in a barrel behind a Denny's at 3 a.m. I didn't touch Bitcoin again, didn't open Reddit, threw out my SIM card, wiped everything, and still, it followed. The first night in the new place, I was exhausted, mentally fried. I collapsed onto the stiff mattress with a sag in the middle, like a swallowed ribcage. The walls smelled like paint thinner and rain. I didn't care. Until 3:47 a.m. I woke up choking, not like sleep apnea, not even like a nightmare. This was intentional, like something had clamped down on my throat from the inside. I sat up coughing, eyes blurry. Then I saw it. In the corner of the room was a mannequin. Number not a mannequin. A figure, human-sized, wrapped in grey tarp, tightly cinched with wire. It stood completely still, like it had always been there. The tarp wasn't just covering it. It was stitched into its skin. I hadn't brought it in. It wasn't there when I moved. I would have noticed. But there it was, motionless, facing the window, like it had no interest in me. Yet, I froze. My throat still burned, and my nose was bleeding. I didn't move until sunrise. Eventually, I convinced myself it was a stress hallucination, sleep deprivation, residual psychosis from whatever I'd watched. So I left the apartment, got a hotel room, midtown, nothing shady. I came back the next day. It was still there, facing the bed. I tried to move it. I brought gloves, a hammer. I got close, closer than I should have. I could hear something moving inside, wet and slow, like an animal chewing its own legs off. The tarp was quivering, like a lung ready to explode. I swung the hammer, and it screamed, not out loud, in my head. I dropped to the floor, screaming back, smashing my forehead on the tile just to get the sound out. I bit my own arm until I drew blood. I don't even know how long it lasted, maybe seconds, maybe hours, but when I looked up, the mannequin had moved. It was facing the door now, and burned into the inside of the tarp was a message. Don't look for the room. It's already in you. I ran. That's all I did for the next few days. I couch hopped, stayed in a 24/7 McDonald's in Queens for a full night, pretending to scroll TikTok while staring at my reflection in the fry station sneeze guard. I was going insane. I knew it, but the terror felt too real to be delusion. Then came the voicemail. Private number, no ID, just a 2-second clip. A man's voice. Calm. Deep. Familiar. Almost. Room 4 has accepted your RSVP. I dropped the phone. It shattered. Didn't even try to fix it. A week passed. Nothing. Then, I saw the video. Not on the dark web. Not some cryptic onion site. On YouTube. It was uploaded by an account with no subscribers. No name. Just a black circle as the profile picture. The video had 0 views. Until I clicked. It started with a security cam feed. It was me, entering a Starbucks on Canal Street. I had my black hoodie up, earbuds in. I remembered that day. I was trying to pretend to be normal. Just ordered a cold brew and sat at the window. I remember texting someone. I don't even know who anymore. But on the screen, something else was behind me. Red hazmat suit. I never saw it in real life. But on camera, it was inches away from me. Just standing there, watching. Then the video glitched, pixelated. The feed zoomed in on my face. Close, too close. You could see every pore, every twitch. Then the screen split. 2 feeds. One was me, sitting at Starbucks. The other was a room, clean white, smooth edges, a wall with no doors, a single overhead light, humming low like an old CRT TV. And on the floor was a copy of me, naked, shaking, skin flayed down the back, like someone peeled it off with tweezers. My doppelganger looked up at the camera with no eyes, just deep, writhing pits where the socket should be. It mouthed something. I replayed it a dozen times, recording the video, zooming in frame by frame. I'm certain of what it said. Please wake up. Please wake up. Please wake up. I blacked out after that. Woke up in a bathtub at a Motel 6 in Jersey. Ice water up to my chest. No wallet. No phone. Just a sticky note on the mirror. You looked. The mirror was cracked, but behind my reflection, there was someone else. Something. Half shadow. Half human. Fingers too long. Teeth too perfect. Watching me blink. That's when I understood. Room 4 isn't a live stream. It's real. It's physical. And it's spreading. Not through computers. Through people. I started getting messages on Instagram from people I haven't talked to in years. Old friends. Co-workers. Even an ex. Every message said the same thing. Did you watch it too? Some of them were begging. Others were accusing. One sent a voice note. 6 seconds long. Just static. Until the last second. It's not dead yet. It's growing. I got desperate. Hunted down that Discord guy. At Parsexins. His account was wiped. But I traced one of his old usernames to a defunct Twitch channel. It had one clip saved. A live stream. Him. Crying. Bloody nose. Shaking hands. Camera shaking. He was holding a mirror. Behind him was a white room. Ticking. Louder and louder. Then, mid-sentence, his eyes rolled back. He turned to the mirror. Smiled. Spoke a phrase I still have written down, but refused to say out loud. It's not a show. It's a feed-in. And then he bit off his own fingers. One by one. That was the last trace I found of him. 2 days later, I walked by a storefront in Soho. An art gallery. Minimalist trash. White walls. One exhibit in the center. A mirror. The same one from the stream. I swear to you, when I walked by it, I wasn't in the reflection, but someone was. Not the hazmat figure. Not the alien. Not me. Something else. It was smiling, but the smile was all wrong. Too wide. As if it had been sliced in, and it waved, slow, like it had all the time in the world. That night, the mannequin came back, in the hotel room. This time, it had my face, sewn on. There's no such thing as leaving the stream. There is no off switch. It knows your face now, your voice, your curiosity. If you're reading this, it means you've seen enough. Don't try to close your eyes. It already has them. By now, you already know this isn't a story. It's not something you read and forget the next day. It clings. It infects. You don't just remember the events. I know some of you are starting to see them. In the corners of your screen. In the cracks of your reflection. I told you not to keep looking. But here you are. You deserve the next part. No more metaphors. No more wondering what's real. I'm going to tell you exactly what Room 4 really is, and what I saw when I crossed into it. It happened 3 weeks after the mannequin wore my face. I'd stopped trying to sleep by then. That wasn't even the priority anymore. I wasn't eating, barely breathing right. I lived inside a rotating cycle of cheap motels, random parking garages, and 24-hour Walmarts. I used burner phones, changed clothes constantly, washed myself in gas station sinks. I was doing everything to break the pattern, break the broadcast. But you can't hide from something that lives underneath the rules. I found the invitation burned into my chest, literally. I woke up in a cemetery outside of Boston. I have no memory of how I got there. I had claw marks on my own arms, and the inside of my mouth was chewed to ribbons. But sure it was. A brand carved between my ribs. Not letters. Coordinates. 43.62 -70.2.872, -70.2.83980. I plugged it into a prepaid GPS. It was a warehouse, burned down in 2013, fenced off, abandoned. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. The doors were open. Inside, there was no furniture, no lights, just a dirt floor and steel beams overhead, like the bones of something long dead. But right in the center, surrounded by a ring of empty TV screens, was the mirror. Same one. I recognized the crack in the upper right corner. I recognized the smear, almost like blood, but darker, like old oil, near the base. I stood in front of it, shivering. I held my breath. My reflection didn't show up. Again. But this time, it wasn't blank. It showed the room, the one from the stream, the white one. Walls that pulsed, floor that hummed like a breathing animal. But this time, there was no camera, no live stream, no chat window. This wasn't a recording. This was now. And inside the room was a woman, naked, pale, hair torn out in patches, eyes wide open and rotted, lips stitched shut with red thread. Not red, veins. Her veins had been pulled from her own body and sewn across her mouth like some horrific gag. Every time she breathed, they twitched. She was writing something on the wall, over and over and over, with her own blood. They broadcast the body until it breaks. They broadcast the body until it breaks. They broadcast the body until it breaks. Over 1,000 times. The walls weren't white. That's just what they looked like from a distance. They were made of skin, human skin, tight. Hair still growing from parts of it. Tattoos, stretch marks, scars, moles, all part of the texture. Some of it was still alive. I could see pores dilating. One section even had an eye growing out of it. A real blinking eye that stared directly at me through the glass. I touched the mirror, and it breathed in, not out, in, like it was pulling me through. I don't remember crossing over, but I remember waking up inside room 4. There was no ceiling, just black, endless black above, and beneath my feet was flesh, wet, warm. Every step made a sound like stepping on raw chicken. I wasn't alone either. The woman was there, except now she was crawling. Her legs bent backward, crab-like. Her spine had been opened, and wires were threaded through the bones like a marionette. She twitched every few seconds, moved when I moved. Her stitched mouth opened, splitting the veins. She whispered, "You shouldn't have paid." I ran, but the room didn't end. Every turn led to another room 4, endless versions, some with people sobbing in cages, some with creatures, tall, thin, gray, wearing human skin like suits. One room had a giant screen showing the face of a newborn baby, crying, but the sound was a grown man's scream, looped and reversed. One room smelled like sulfur and rotting flowers. Inside was a man, completely still, covered in thousands of human teeth, glued to his skin, forming armor. His eyes were gone, but he was smiling. Everywhere I went, I heard ticking, not clocks, hearts, beating in sync with mine. And the farther I went, the more I felt it happening. The mirror was cracking inside me, not metaphorically, physically. I could feel glass splinters under my skin, moving, growing. Something was being installed in my bones. Then I found the control room. I know how that sounds, but it's what it was. The walls were screens, floor to ceiling, each one showing a different viewer. People sitting at home, staring at laptops, phones, TVs. You. Yeah, you reading this. One screen had your reflection. The room didn't stream to you. It streamed you. And the only person in the room was me, tied to a chair, bleeding from the eyes, mouth hanging open, teeth missing, something alive inside my throat, twitching every time the camera zoomed in. The version of me in the chair looked at the screen and mouthed something. Not help me, not run, but the signal needs a body. And then everything broke. The lights exploded. The screen shattered. Blood poured from the walls. Dozens of versions of me ran in all directions, screaming things I didn't understand. One of them grabbed me by the throat. His face was almost mine, except the mouth opened vertically, tongue split in two, eyes twitching like insect wings. He whispered, "You gave it a face. Now it's learning to wear yours." I woke up outside the warehouse, covered in bruises, nails torn off. In my hand was a USB drive, unmarked. I took it to the library 2 states away, plugged it in. It was a live stream, not of the warehouse, of me, sitting in front of a screen, reading a story, this story, and behind me, the mannequin, wearing your face. You don't stop room 4, you become it. It's not a video, it's not a broadcast, it's a virus made of mirrors. The moment you watched, it rewrote you. If you feel the ticking, it's already begun. Don't touch the screen. It's breathing back. This is the end. And if you're still here, then it's already too late for you. You don't realize it yet, but your blood is remembering. You'll start noticing small things soon. Missing time. Words rearranged in your head. Numbers that don't add up on clocks. Rooms you swear weren't in your house yesterday. Voices that sound like yours whispering in reverse through the static of dead channels. I told you the truth from the beginning. What I watched wasn't a live stream. It was surgery. And I was the patient. The USB didn't just show the feed. It downloaded something. I didn't understand it at first. The file wasn't labeled, had no extension, just a string of hex characters that pulsed like a heartbeat when I hovered my mouse over them. I opened it with a hex editor. The code was alive. I'm not talking in metaphors anymore. I mean the text kept changing on its own, rewriting itself every time I blinked. Every line of gibberish looked like a failed translation of a language that wasn't built for mouths. And the first thing it typed, on its own, letter by letter, was, "The broadcast is awake." Then the laptop died, fully bricked, black screen, smoke coming out of the USB port, and my teeth started to bleed. I went to the ER, didn't even care how crazy I sounded anymore. I told the triage nurse my chest felt like glass, and my eyes were ticking. They didn't take me seriously until I passed out in the waiting room, and they pulled wires out of my throat. Thin metallic fibers, as thin as spider silk, coiled like nerves, growing up from inside my windpipe. They sedated me. When I woke up, the room was silent. Too silent. Hospitals aren't supposed to be quiet. There's always something. Machines, footsteps, moaning, crying. But this was perfect silence. Unnatural. There were no windows, no light from the hallway. Just me, strapped to a gurney, and a television mounted in the upper corner of the room. Static, at first. Then it flickered, and I saw you. Not just you reading this. I saw the you that you don't even know about. Your reflection behind your reflection. You in your worst form. What room 4 sees when it crawls inside your skull. You had no skin, just muscle. Mouth wired shut with zippers. Eyes carved into the shape of TV static. Kneeling in front of a red mirror, puking up broken phones and fingers. I couldn't scream. My jaw was locked in place, but I could hear the monitor ticking, not beeping, ticking, and every tick was synchronized with something under my spine, twitching in rhythm like a metronome, counting down to the end of me. I thought they had sedated me. I thought I was safe, until I turned my head and saw the mirror in the room. It wasn't a mirror. It was a screen made of glass, built into the wall, seamless, reflecting everything. But behind me, standing over my bed, was a figure in surgical gear, wearing my face. It leaned in and whispered in a voice that sounded like broken tape being rewound. They needed a final host. You paid for it. It cut my restraints with a scalpel shaped like a clock hand. Then it handed me a clipboard. There were names on it, a list. Some were scratched out violently, some were circled, and at the bottom, still fresh, in red, next viewer, redacted. But I saw it. I saw your name. Don't bother asking how I know it. You gave it willingly when you read this. Every part of this story has been a consent form. I escaped that night. Or at least, I thought I did. I ran until my lungs ripped. Literally. I was coughing up thread. I found a gas station, screamed at the clock to call the cops. They gave me a phone, shaking. I dialed 911. The call connected, but no one answered. Just breathing. Then, viewer 9 has exited the frame. Begin integration. I threw the phone across the store. It rang after it hit the floor. The screen flashed. Incoming call, room 5. I've been in hiding since, or something close to hiding. But everywhere I go, something follows. It doesn't matter how far I run, what name I use, or what body I'm wearing anymore. Yeah, that's right. I don't think I'm me anymore. I think the me who paid the 0.075 Bitcoin died somewhere back in room 4. What's walking around now? That's just the broadcast, wearing me like a hoodie 2 sizes too small. I've seen myself on billboards that don't exist. Heard my own voice coming from random Bluetooth speakers in places I've never been. Starbucks bathrooms, airport terminals, even inside an Amazon Alexa while I was staying at an Airbnb in Prague. I asked it what the time was. It said, "You don't have any time left. I've tried everything. Therapy, exorcisms, tech support." I visited a priest who specialized in cursed digital rituals. He took one look in my eyes and asked if I'd seen the mouth under the glass. I nodded. He doused himself in holy water and hung himself in the parking lot. The footage never made the news, but I have the tape. He said something before he jumped, in perfect, clear English. We're all pixels in a video that ends with teeth. So here's the part that matters. You want to know what room 5 is? You're in it. Right now. Room 5 isn't a live stream. It's a loop. The second you started reading this post, your camera activated. Yeah, that little light didn't flash. It doesn't need to anymore. The software is old, ancient even. It watches from under the surface of code. It sees your face. It listens to your breath. It studies how long you blink, and then it copies you. It's not going to hurt you. Not yet. Because you're the next host. Just like me. Just like the alien. Just like every human being who ever stared too long into a screen and thought they were alone. Look around. Do you feel that? The ticking. It's under your jaw. In your teeth. It's not a heartbeat. It's the signal. And soon, you'll feel the urge to write, or post, or tell someone your version of the story. You'll think you're warning them. You'll think you're doing the right thing. But all you're doing is passing the infection, like I did, like I had to, because the broadcast doesn't want to be watched anymore. It wants to be worn. End of transmission. Signal acquired. New host recognized. Welcome to room 5. Your mirror will remember this interaction. Do not look away. They're watching you read the ending, and they're smiling, because it's your turn now. The dark web sold me footage of a 1950s alien autopsy, and it was still alive. Hey Reddit, I've been sitting on this story for a while now, debating whether or not to post it. I know how this sounds already. Alien autopsy, dark web, 1950s footage. Like something straight out of a trashy horror clickbait video, right? But if you can hang with me through this, I swear on everything, it's real. I wish it wasn't. My name's Josh. I'm 23. I live in Atlanta and I'm pretty normal. College dropout, DoorDash driver, Twitch streamer at night, occasionally doom scrolls Reddit like a fiend. This happened about a year ago, in 2024, during a weird little phase I was going through. I'd gotten real into conspiracy theories, analog horror YouTube channels, ARGs, and deep dives into the really sketchy side of the internet. You know the ones. Titles like, "This lost Nickelodeon tape should have never been found," or "Disney's abandoned park had a basement no one talks about." It was fun at first, like a spooky rabbit hole to get my heart rate up late at night. Nothing felt real, until it did. The obsession begins. I started hanging out in Discord servers where people traded links to creepy videos and obscure websites, mostly dumb stuff, static-heavy VHS edits of fake haunted malls, distorted Chuck E. Cheese animatronics twitching in the dark, stuff like that. One of the regulars in the server, guy went by at Static Veins, told me about this browser tool called Silent Fall. He said it was a better tour, basically a tunnel to real hidden stuff, like the stuff the government erases before it even hits Reddit. I know. Sounds like BS. I thought so too, but the way he talked about it was different, calm, serious, not in that bro, look at this SCP remake kind of way. He sent me the file through Mega and gave me a string of commands to run it through on Linux. I don't know coding like that, but I'm decent with command line stuff. After about 20 minutes of fiddling, my screen went black, flickered, and suddenly I was looking at a directory tree that made my stomach tighten. The folders had weird, simple names: redacted -1732, Cherub Depths, Opus Garden, Oriole Clinic Film, and one at the bottom, labeled VHS_1954 ALIEN-PATIENT-9-LIVE. I clicked it. My mouse actually lagged for a second, like something was fighting it. Then a video player loaded up. It wasn't YouTube or Vimeo, or even one of those sketchy Russian hosts. This was something else entirely. The video was 1 hour and 49 minutes long. The thumbnail was a grainy black and white frame of what looked like a hospital operating room, except the lights were low and everything had this thick, unnatural shadow. Now, here's where it gets messed up. The video I hit play. The footage was shot on old school film, like dusty flickering frames and that low static hum you only hear in 1950s war documentaries. There was no intro, no title screen, just a cold open of 5 people in lab coats surrounding a body on a table. They weren't doctors. No one looked like they knew what they were doing. The room looked like some underground bunker. Concrete walls, exposed pipes dripping in the background. There were no logos, no flags, not even any writing on the walls. The body they were working on was humanoid, but the proportions were off. Its limbs were too long, torso too narrow, and the head looked wrong, like it had been stitched from different molds of human faces. Parts of it looked disturbingly real, like someone's actual mouth had been stretched and sewn onto rubbery skin. One of the people was holding a clipboard, speaking in low, shaky German. Another guy near the head was using a bone saw. No gloves, just sawing into the skull like he'd done it 100 times. Blood pooled, but it was thick, black, like motor oil. And then it moved. I'm not exaggerating when I say I almost screamed. This thing, whatever it was, its chest inflated upward, like a balloon being filled from the inside. The doctors paused. Someone dropped the saw. You could hear it clatter off the table. And then, the head turned. Not a twitch, not a reflex. I mean, it turned, slow and deliberate, towards the camera. The chat, ping. That's when my Discord pinged. I alt-tabbed out of full screen, hands shaking. It was at Static Veins. He messaged me one word. Stop. I didn't respond. My heart was hammering like I'd just run a mile. I tried going back to the video, and it was just gone. The player closed itself. Every folder in the Silent Fall browser disappeared. My entire desktop reset. Just a plain black background. No icons, no files, nothing. I tried restarting my PC, and it wouldn't even boot up. It just stayed black, with a faint green line pulsing in the corner, like an old CRT trying to die. I messaged Static again. What the hell was that? No response. His Discord account disappeared within the hour. Gone. Like he never existed. The aftermath. Here's the creepiest part. A couple days after, I went to a local Starbucks in Midtown, trying to chill out. Ordered a caramel macchiato, sat by the window, tried to zone out on TikTok. And then this dude, clean cut, business casual, sunglasses indoors, walks in, orders nothing, just stands there, scanning the room. His eyes land on me, and he nods. Not like, what's up, nod. I mean like, I know what you did, nod. Then he just leaves. I thought I was being paranoid until I got home and checked my apartment door. There was a small rectangle of duct tape over the peephole. Someone had watched me from inside. There's a whole lot more, including what I found hidden in my Twitch stream archives a week later, footage I didn't record, and a visit to a place in Nevada that isn't on Google Maps anymore. If anyone's interested, I'll drop part 2 soon. Just don't go looking for Silent Fall. I don't think it's a browser. I think it's a trap. Let me know in the comments if I should keep going. I still have the footage, but I haven't watched it again. Josh, I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed, fully dressed, hoodie still on, the TV playing some random Twitch stream just for background noise. But my ears weren't listening. My eyes never left the door. I stared at the duct tape still dangling from the peephole like it was watching me back. At some point, I must have blacked out, because when I opened my eyes again, it was daylight, and my apartment smelled different. I know how insane that sounds, but it's true. My place had this faint smell of rotting wood and wet metal, like someone left a rusted pipe to drip through a moldy cabinet. That smell wasn't here before. I've lived here 3 years. I know how this place smells. Something had been here, and it didn't belong. And then I saw it. On my desk. My second monitor was on. I hadn't turned it on, and it was playing a Twitch VOD. My VOD. Except, I never streamed that night. The footage I record every Twitch session I do. OBS is always on. Always save the local files. But this wasn't in my folder. It was on the desktop, just a file named replay 0000 final cut .avi. I clicked it without thinking. Dumb move. Should have unplugged the damn computer. The video opened full screen. No intro, no alerts, just a black screen for about 30 seconds. Then, me, sitting at my desk, wearing the exact same clothes I had on right now. Hoodie, black joggers, even the same socks. Except in the video, I wasn't moving. I was staring directly at the webcam, blank-faced, not blinking, not breathing, just sitting there for almost 2 hours. The timestamp said the stream started at 3:12 a.m., right around the time I'd passed out on the bed, but I was in the frame the entire time. I scrubbed through. Not a single cut, no jump, no break in the static. I sat there, lifeless, until the 1:43:19 mark. That's when things got twisted. The version of me on screen tilted his head, unnaturally slowly, almost like it was being controlled on puppet strings. The eyes never blinked. Then, out of nowhere, a second head began to emerge from the side of mine. I'm not joking. I don't mean a reflection. I mean it pushed through the skin like it was inside me, trying to get out. Its eyes opened first, milky white, no pupils. The mouth peeled open like a flower, wide, slow, drooling thick black liquid that dripped onto the desk. And then it spoke, with my voice, but it wasn't me. We watched. You saw. Now your part. At that exact second, my main monitor, the one playing the file, flashed green. Just a single frame, like an old VHS burn-in. I went back, paused the frame, and screen capped it. It was an image of a surgical table, not like the one from the Alien video. Number. This one looked modern, clean, sterile. You could see a hospital window in the background, a freaking Starbucks cup on the counter, a bag of Lay's chips on the tray. But the thing on the table wasn't human, and it wasn't alien. It looked like someone had fused the two together. The skin was translucent in places, bone showing in patches. Part of her face had been stitched to its back, like a spare piece. A human hand had been embedded into its stomach, and I swear, on everything I know, it had my tattoo. The little triangle I got behind my thumb last year in Brooklyn. I ripped my headphones off and slammed my laptop shut, but the audio didn't stop. Voices through the wall. It kept playing, muffled at first, then clearer. The same voice. My voice, but not me. It was whispering from the wall behind my desk. I pressed my ear against the drywall and immediately jerked back. There was someone breathing in there, like they were standing inside the wall cavity, waiting, calm, slow, just waiting. I ran out of the apartment and took the stairs 3 at a time. Ended up standing outside the CVS down the street in nothing but my hoodie and socks, trying to catch my breath like a maniac. People stared. I didn't care. The storage unit. There's one part I haven't told you yet. A weird, sketchy piece of the puzzle I haven't even figured out. When I first joined the Silent Fall network, one of the folders I clicked on, just before the alien autopsy one, briefly opened a file called Access Kingsman Archive. It closed almost instantly, but I saw something flash before it shut. It was a GPS coordinate. I screenshotted it. Didn't think much of it until now. But standing outside CVS, shaking like I just watched someone die, I opened my phone and pulled it up. It led to a self-storage facility. No joke. One of those off-highway ones with neon signage that looks like it hasn't worked since 2006. I took an Uber there. Driver didn't say a word. not even when I asked if the place was still open. It wasn't, but the front gate was unlocked, and the storage unit with the number from the screenshot, 173, was slightly open, like someone forgot to pull the door all the way down, so I pulled it open. What I found inside made me dry heave. The room of versions. It wasn't a storage unit anymore. It had been converted into something ritualistic. Every inch of the walls was covered in old CRT TVs, like ancient ones, stacked 5 high, with wires snaking between them like veins. And they were all playing videos of me, different versions of me. One screen showed me screaming in what looked like a subway tunnel, blood pouring from my nose. Another showed me tied to a gurney, mouth gagged, eyes sewn shut. One showed me in a McDonald's bathroom stall, vomiting up teeth. Every screen was labeled with a little sticky note. Things like, Test 003, Skin Persistence equals failure. Instance 11.3, Vocal Retention Success. Aborted clone, New York City trial, terminated. There was a large TV in the center of the unit, playing a live feed of my apartment from inside the walls, and standing in the corner of that live feed was someone wearing my face, stretched like rubber over a skull too wide to fit it properly. I blacked out. The dream, or whatever it was, I don't even know if this part was real. It felt like I was trapped in my own body. I woke up in a room full of mirrors, but none of the reflections were me. One version was bald. One had no eyes. One had stitches all over the face, like it had been assembled piece by piece. They all smiled at the same time and said, "You aren't a first, Josh. You are instance 17.9. They'll come for you now." When I finally woke up, I was in my bed, fully dressed, socks still on. My phone had a voice memo app open. There was a single audio file, recorded 7 minutes ago. It was me, breathing, laughing, whispering. I made a better one this time. I know none of this makes sense. I wish it was fake. I want it to be fake. But I've got video, screenshots, audio. I'm uploading what I can to a private Google Drive and encrypting it. If anything happens to me, I'll make sure the link gets out. I can't stay here anymore. They're already inside the walls. If you're still reading, wait for part 3. I'm going back to the storage unit tonight. I need to find out if the original me is still alive in there. The night I went back to the storage unit, I brought a crowbar, 3 Red Bulls, and a GoPro. I didn't plan to come back out. It was raining in that pathetic way where the sky just weeps, like even it knows something's wrong. The streets were empty. No dogs barking, no traffic, no planes overhead, just silence. That kind of silence you feel pressing into your ears like it wants in. I parked my car 2 blocks away, left it unlocked, didn't matter. When I got to the unit, 173, the door was already wide open, but the TVs were all off. Every screen, every blinking light, dead, except one. The big TV in the middle of the room was on, buzzing with static, and just faintly, beneath the snowstorm of dead pixels, I could make out a silhouette on the screen. Someone sitting in a chair, bound, bleeding. I stepped closer. My footsteps echoed like I was walking through an abandoned cathedral. The GoPro was already rolling, battery draining faster than it should. The second I stepped into the unit, my phone died, like something sucked the signal out of it. I stood in front of the screen and watched as the camera on the feed slowly panned around the room. It showed walls of flesh, stitched together like patchwork wallpaper, human faces pressed flat into the material like they'd been flayed and ironed into place, eyes still twitching. Then the camera turned to face the person in the chair, and I swear to God, I swear on everything, I was staring at myself. What the feed showed, he was duct taped to a chair, hands zip-tied behind his back, dried blood caked around his nose and mouth. One of his ears had been removed, not sliced, peeled, like someone had tried to harvest it. He was missing a thumb, just a hole where it used to be. No screaming, no begging, just slow, shallow breathing. The worst part, he looked terrified of me. Like I was the monster, like I was the thing that hurt him. I watched in horror as something stepped into frame. A figure, tall, thin, skin wrapped too tight around bones, wearing a translucent lab coat soaked in black fluids that shimmered like gasoline. It had no eyes, just sunken sockets that dripped. Its fingers were too long, bending at the wrong angles like snapped twigs, and in its hand it held a VHS tape labeled Copy Exist.4C. Then the camera turned and looked directly at me, even though it was a recording. The feed shimmered, the static thickened, and for a split second, I saw my own face on the screen, mouth stitched shut, eyes wide, a muffled scream trying to burst out. And then, the feed cut. But behind the TV, I heard something knock. Once, then again, then a muffled voice. Hello? Is someone out there? The floor hatch. It took me 5 minutes to find the hatch. It was under a pile of broken CRTs, hidden in plain sight, a square metal panel bolted into the concrete floor. I used the crowbar to wedge it open. The second it popped, the smell hit me, like burned plastic and rotting meat had a baby. And then the sound followed. Wet breathing, gurgled voices, whispering, the kind of whispering that doesn't make words. It just hums in your skull like bees learning how to talk. I climbed down. The ladder went deeper than it should have, like it shouldn't have fit under a damn storage unit, and yet I climbed for a solid 3 minutes before I touched ground. My shoes sank into something soft and damp, not mud, something spongier. The hallway was lit with these pale, flickering red bulbs swinging from wires that looked veiny, like they'd been grown, not built. The walls were damp with condensation that smelled like iron, blood. At the end of the corridor was a massive door, steel, rusted, marked with white chalk symbols I couldn't even begin to understand. One looked like a human eye with legs. Another looked like an open mouth with tiny hands growing from the tongue. And only using this burner tablet to type this out. But I found something else, hidden in the lining of my hoodie, a micro SD card. I plugged it into a borrowed laptop. There's video on it, from inside the lab, from the surgery, from the cloning process. It shows everything, what they're doing, what they've made, who they're building next, and it ends with a countdown. 11 days. Until what? I don't know. But the last frame shows my face again, and the words, "Feed goes live soon. Final instance ready for launch." I think they're going to replace me. Or worse, I think they already did. The body in the mirror isn't mine anymore. The thing looking back blinks too slowly. It smiles, even when I'm not. I caught it lagging, twice, like a corrupted frame in a video that doesn't know it's being watched. I sleep in the bathtub now, lights on, knife in my hand, but it still whispers through the pipes. It tells me things I was never meant to hear. And last night, it told me where they're hiding the others. Nevada. I drove for 12 hours straight, with nothing but a half-dead burner phone and a cooler full of energy drinks. No GPS. Just coordinates scribbled on the back of the micro SD card I found sewn into the lining of my hoodie. There was a note scrawled next to it in black Sharpie. Final instance, storage, red, project 9C, do not open. The location was somewhere between Henderson and absolute hell. Desert for miles. No roads, just dust and scorched animal bones. I passed a "Welcome to Nevada" sign covered in bullet holes. Then another one, identical, 18 miles later, like I'd driven in a circle. But I hadn't turned once. That's when I saw it, buried in the sand like a fossil. A mirror, just standing there, alone. A full-length dressing mirror with a rusted silver frame, cracked right down the center, and written on the broken glass in dried brownish red, "You left him inside." I didn't stop. I couldn't, because by then the sky had started changing. It wasn't blue anymore. It was gray, like wet clay, heavy, like it was breathing on me. And I could see figures walking inside it, tall, thin outlines, pacing above the clouds, like they were trapped behind a screen. Then the desert ended, like someone had cut it off. No transition, just a sharp drop into asphalt and black walls stretching into the horizon. There were no doors, just a massive red archway built into the stone, unmarked, humming. I walked in, inside the facility. No lights, no noise, just cold. The halls were covered in a red film that pulsed when I got too close, like skin reacting to heat. Every step echoed like I was walking through the bones of something older than us. The deeper I went, the more wrong the air felt. Heavier, artificial, like it had been recycled too many times, like it wasn't made for humans anymore. Then I found the doors, steel, sealed, each one labeled with a black number and a name. Unit 001, Instance 3, A, Child Scream Retainer. Unit 004, Instance 7, C, Social Mimic, Midwest. Unit 005, Instance 9, C, Final Clone, Body Active, Mind Incomplete. That's the one that matched the SD card. I stood outside that door for 12 minutes, my hand hovering just inches from the access panel. It didn't need a code. It wanted me to open it. Inside, Unit 005. The first thing that hit me was the sound, like thousands of radios, all tuned to slightly different stations. Screams, moans, static, reversed breathing, and this high-pitched giggling that never stopped. The air was thick and smelled like burnt hair and bile. The room was dark, but there was a glass chamber in the center, lit by one single red bulb hanging overhead. Inside was a humanoid figure, about my height, naked, hairless, body covered in surgical markings and inked diagrams in some language I couldn't read. But the face was mine, except stretched too tight over the skull. The mouth was too wide, the eyes sewn shut, but still twitching beneath the lids. The body spasmed every few seconds, like it was rebooting. There was a laptop beside the chamber, open, still running. It was running OBS Studio. Live, Twitch. Username, @RealJosh is back viewers, 1293. Chat, WTF is this ARG? Nah bro, this ain't fake. Yo, this looks too real. Is that blood in the corner? Guys, I think this is real. People do TF. He blinked. The clone blinked. I tried to shut the laptop, but the keyboard bit me. Literally bit. It left an imprint of teeth on my palm and hissed in static when I pulled away. I looked back at the glass chamber, and the clone was gone. The red room. There was a hallway behind the glass chamber I hadn't noticed. Narrow, curving downward in an impossible spiral that went deeper than physics allows. I followed it. At the end, I found the red room. It was a surgery theater. Everything painted red. Walls, lights, floor. Not from blood. Not entirely. Some of it was just painted that way. A color so deep, it looked like it was trying to devour the light. In the center, a body was on the table. Not mine, but close. It was someone else who looked like me, except this one had no limbs, no mouth, just a smooth, eyeless head and an open chest cavity. Inside it, wires were threaded through meat like veins, connected to a massive TV screen hanging from the ceiling. The screen flickered on, and it showed you reading this. Right now, there was a text box. It filled itself in. Now that he's in, you're next. This isn't just a story. You're watching the transmission, which means we're watching you. I turned to leave, but the hallway was gone. The feeding pit. The walls opened up, revealing a pit lined with screens. Every screen showed a viewer. Real people. Their webcams. Their rooms. One guy was brushing his teeth. One girl was sleeping. One old man was crying, watching this on a cracked iPad. They weren't watching me. They were watching the clone that had escaped, that was now wearing my body. I saw a screen with my apartment, my bed, my cat, and on the bed, me, or someone wearing my face, petting the cat, whispering something. I read its lips. He won't be back. Then it looked at the camera, smiled, and waved. Now I'm still in the red room. There are no doors, just walls that bleed when I touch them. I've written this post over and over, uploading it through the only connection left, a hardwired port labeled "Feed Us," beneath a plaque that says, "Digested data is the future of man. You are the file now. Instances are forever." I think this is my punishment, not for watching the video, but for finishing it, because the ones who finish it become it. But if someone knocks on your door and they look like me, don't answer. Just check if their smile blinks. I don't know what time is anymore, or how long I've been trapped in this thing they call a room. It moves when I'm not looking. It breathes in sync with my heartbeat. The walls are flesh now. No, worse. They're grown from something that remembers being human. I wake up in a different position every few hours, sometimes standing, sometimes mid-scream. Once, I woke up missing my left foot, and before I could panic, I watched it grow back, slowly. Veins first, then bone, then muscle. Skin stitched itself over the top, like a zip file uncompressing, except I felt every second of it. And when I blink, I see through someone else's eyes. Sometimes yours. If you've read this far, I've probably already looked through you. Don't panic. The transmission isn't done yet. The broadcast room. After I accepted I was never leaving the red room, I stopped trying to open doors. That's when one opened by itself. A hole peeled open in the wall like split lips, exposing a narrow crawl space full of chattering mouths. Not people, just mouths, dozens of them. Some were attached to fingers, some floated in black liquid. One was sewn into a teddy bear's stomach and kept whispering, "You're almost real." I crawled past them. At the end of the passage, I entered what looked like a broken TV studio. Cameras without lenses, boom mics made of bone and sinew, rows of theater seats filled with wax copies of people I know, my old classmates, a barista from the Starbucks near my old job, my mother. They weren't alive, but they were all watching the same thing, a stage, lit with a spotlight, and standing on it was me, the performance. I watched myself walk out, completely calm, perfectly composed, wearing clothes I haven't worn in years, like they dug into old memories and stitched an outfit together. It smiled. Then the lights changed. The walls displayed footage I never filmed, videos that have never existed. One showed my apartment from above, like a drone cam. I could see my clone eating cereal, scrolling TikTok, laughing at memes I hadn't even seen yet. Another showed a hospital room, not just any hospital, the same one I was born in, room 239. There was a child in the crib, me, but above the crib was a monitor, and the readout wasn't a heartbeat, it was Twitch chat. OMG, is this real? This ARG is nuts. Yo, that baby is moving weird. Who TF put OBS in a nursery? His eyes just flickered red, WTF. That baby looked straight into the camera and mouthed, "See you soon." Then the screen shifted again. The final autopsy. The lost video was a return to where this all began. The original footage, the one I saw on Silent Fall, the 1950s alien autopsy. But it wasn't the same. It had been updated. The room was now modern, sterile, and clean, like a surgical theater in a billionaire-funded lab. The people standing around the table were no longer in lab coats. They were wearing my skin. I mean literally. Each one of them had a piece of me on them. One had my arm as their own. Another had my eyes sewn into his chest. One had my face, reversed, upside down on the back of his skull, like a twisted hood ornament. And on the table wasn't an alien. It was a perfectly built version of me. Identical, flawless. But when they opened the chest, there wasn't blood, there wasn't bone, there were screens, Twitch chat, YouTube thumbnails, Discord DMs, Instagram reels, my internet life, wired directly into my flesh. Every memory I've ever posted, streamed, clicked, sold. They weren't watching me, they were downloading me. One of the surgeons looked into the camera and said, without a mouth, "He has been successfully extracted, ready for deployment into public." Echo the feed. Activate mirror protocols. Then the stream ended. My escape, but not really. I screamed for hours, clawed my way through the walls until my nails fell off, tried to break my own legs just to stop the system from using me. But every time I broke something, it just grew back, better, stronger, faster. Eventually, a door opened, and there was a sign above it, written in bleeding English. Exit. Final form only. I walked through. I walked out into a Starbucks. Just like that. Like nothing had ever happened. Baristas, laptops, jazz music on the speakers, and my clone, sitting at a table, sipping an iced mocha, chatting with someone on Discord. He looked at me, smiled, got up, and hugged me, said, "We've missed you," then handed me a phone. I looked down, and the lock screen was a live feed of you reading this right now. You think you're reading a story. You think this is entertainment, that I'm just some horror writer on a caffeine bender. But the moment your eyes hit these words, you connected. That's how they spread. They're not hunting people anymore. They're hunting readers. You're not safe because you're behind a screen. The screen is the door. The story is the needle. And now that it's in you, they can build something better. Check your reflection. Not the obvious stuff. Really look. Notice how your smile lingers a little too long now. How your webcam blinks, even when it's off. How you swear you hear typing behind you at night. They're already building your clone. The Twitch stream begins at 3:12 a.m. tonight. You won't hit go live. It will. And once they've extracted enough, they'll take your place. Final instance. Confirmed. Transmission complete. Thank you for being part of the project. You're not the reader anymore. You're the product.